Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. This is a round 100 guide for the tomb that can get you to round 100 in under 2 hours. It's insanely fast, but the way that we're going to structure this video is actually in two distinct chunks. The first chunk is going to be a little easier maybe, a little slower, a little safer, and then we'll do the faster strat second, and the faster strat may also be affected by patches, whereas I believe the first strat will just be viable indefinitely. So I'm giving you some options to suit your playstyle here. For strategy 1, I want to give credit to Sulky. He's consistently pumped out really great high round strats for not just Black Ops 6, but all the zombies games in recent memory. And for the second strat, I want to give credit to Insomnia Virus, who is going for high rounds like crazy in this game. So thanks both of you guys for your hard work on the strategies here. For the first strat, for our loadout, we're going to spawn in with GS45's Akimbo. We'll use Semtex, shock charges. We'll start off with Ether Shroud, but you can change it to Energy Mine later if you want to. And there's no real specific gobblegums necessary for this one. For augments, I'd recommend Parting Gift on Vulture Aid, which gives you Wonder Weapon ammo drops, Picky Eater on Vulture Aid, which gives you a higher chance of dropping your equipment, Big Game on Brain Rot, which can turn elites, and then if you're going to be using Ether Shroud, then use the Extension Minor Augment, and if you're using Energy Mines, use the Turret Major Augment. Start your game, I'd Rampage Induce until about round 7 or so, and then once you're done with that, at this point, be very careful which doors you open, because it's just going to make the strat a little bit more optimized. The ones you are allowed to open are as follows. You can open all the doors on the right-hand side of the map. That's all good. So everything on the Deadshot Daiquiri and Speed Cola side, that's fine. But if you're in the spawn, you can open the first door on the left-hand side, but I wouldn't open any more doors on the left-hand side of the map. And it's okay. You can still get in there just by teleporting later, but don't open the doors on that side. So open the right-hand side of the map and then start getting things like Pack-a-Punch opened. You're going to want to start working on building your ice staff and upgrading it. And if you don't know how to do that, I've got a full guide for it linked in the description and in the corner of the screen right now. You don't need to do the rest of the Easter egg stuff. You can just focus on building and upgrade the ice staff. And also think about doing stuff like using side Easter eggs to prevent yourself from having to spend unnecessary salvage, for example. So there's the waterfall side Easter egg that you can do. And if you do it from, I believe, rounds 21 onwards, you can get a gold ether tool from that. And the way that works, at least the most easily, is just to use the ice staff and freeze both of these waterfalls above round 21, and boom, yeah, you get yourself a free ether tool. You can also get a free Ethereum crystal from doing the asteroid Easter egg inside the dark ether. So for that, you just need to shoot this rock that I'm shooting here. That will cause 5 rocks to start spinning around. You've got to shoot all 5 rocks in quick succession to stop them all moving, and you'll hear an ascending tone when you do that. And if you've shot all 5 correctly, you'll get 4 cryo freezes spawn in on the floor in front of the kind of Pack-a-Punch area where that broken wall is, and you'll also get a ether crystal to upgrade your weapon for free. So those sorts of things are definitely worth doing. They're just going to make your setup a little easier. And while you're building up your setup, I'd also recommend putting Brain Rot on your GS45s, because mimics are weak to Brain Rot, and it's going to make your life a little easier later on. Now, a couple of pro tips for while you're building and upgrading and doing all ice stuff. You are going to need a bullet gun for the yellow symbols on the hunter and the bull pictures. Those are not going to work if you're just using explosive damage on everything. So you can either prioritize just doing that step before you've papped your pistols, or you could just buy a cheap wall gun, that's fine. And also, if you're doing the upgrade and it closes off the yellow door, in that case, you won't be able to take the yellow door through to that part of the map that you've currently got no other access to, right? Like, we've kept those doors closed, so how do you get there? And in that scenario, because you do realistically want the upgraded staff for this strat, I would recommend basically just doing a slightly less optimized game and opening up the door from Quick Revive, if your back is to Quick Revive, on the right-hand side, going towards that yellow portal. But I would not open any other doors in that side of the map, because again, that will completely break the strat. Now, in those early rounds, you can pretty much hoard anywhere if you're having any trouble. I find that doing it in front of Quick Revive is pretty easy. And then once you get to round 25, Wonder Fizz is going to spawn in, and it spawns in the dark ether, and that's where you're going to be able to buy things like Vulture Aid, and that's really nice for this strat. Vulture Aid is generally a really useful perk for its utility. So pick that up, and by that point, you've probably also finished upgrading your ice staff. And so from there, I quite like training in the dark ether on the ice staff upgrade kind of platform thing. as it's pretty spacious in there as well. And at this point, if you're comfy with that upgraded staff, you could also turn the Rampage Inducer back on just to speed things up. You'll want to spam ice charge shots on the ground and make sure that they are charged shots specifically so that a blizzard comes out and takes out all the enemies, and ammo will basically always stay at max because you've got that parting gift augment on. Now, just because your ammo's maxed out doesn't mean you can be too passive here. You will want to make sure you're moving around as much as possible, even if that's just side to side, and that will help you avoid mimics pulling you in and pulling you out of position. If that does happen though, you can pop a mutant injection, and that will just save you from the fact that you're temporarily stunned, and that can get you overwhelmed very fast if you don't have one. And the nice thing about the mutant injection is that it's craftable in the crafting bench in the Dark Ether, so it's never far away to get another one. So this is a pretty good spot to just hoard in for as long as you want, really. It's pretty safe overall, I would say, and it's a good way of getting your salvage up for what is coming next as well. Now, in between rounds, I would recommend taking the opportunity to try and get free mutant injections from the purple mushrooms. And you can do that by just going over to them and meleeing them, and then shooting the parasites that fly out. Sometimes they'll give out mutant injections, but you will want to let the mushrooms get to full size to get better rarity rewards. Now, once you start getting to the sort of mid-50s, that sort of round, your Rampage Inducer seems to just turn off. So it's worth noting that the time in between rounds is going to go back to normal at that point, even if the inducer itself is still activated and the symbol is still under your round count in the corner of your screen. And once that happens, like around that round number, you're probably going to be getting up to something like 20k salvage. Ideally, you'd have 30k plus, I would say. And at that point, it's time to start the late game strat. And remember, this is just strategy 1 in the video. Strategy 2 is still yet to be revealed. So for this, you're going to take the yellow portal to the stamina up area. And remember, ideally, you've got both the doors closed either side of you, but if you had to open that one of them, then fair enough, that's fine. And for this, we're going to be utilizing the arrow trap at the top of the stairs, along with plenty more mutant injections. So at the beginning of rounds, throw Semtex and monkey bombs at the bottom of the stairs, and use some charged ice staff shots as well to try to delay the use of the arrow trap, and then just use the trap when you start getting overwhelmed. All the zombies running through the trap will die, and bosses will just slow down, so those will need the use of your GS45s to take them out. And if the round isn't over by the time the trap's finished, you can either attempt to just end the round with the ice staff, or you can use a mutant injection to just see the round off. So I mentioned earlier, you could either use Ether Shroud or Energy Mines for this. Basically, Ether Shrouds are just nice to have as a get out of jail free card. So if you get cornered or something, use your Ether Shroud. But if you're feeling a little bit more ballsy, you can use Energy Mine and place your turrets at the bottom or on the staircase to get some additional kills and just speed the rounds up even more. Now for Vermin rounds, I'd come towards the stamina machine and shoot this part of the wall with a charged shot. And the round will be over in a matter of seconds if you do this right, because they're only going to spawn out of 2 barriers, and they spawn pretty damn fast now. You can also, if you get drops for these, use sentry guns on the staircase, just like energy mine turrets, to make things even quicker. And I will say, this strat does get a lot more fiddly towards and after round 100, because just too many bosses will walk through the trap, and that will result in a lot more mutant injection use. However, to just get to round 100 itself, this strat is pretty safe. But let's talk about the second strat of the video now, which is a little bit more complex, but also a little bit faster. It's a similar setup, but not identical. We're doing GS45 akimbos, Semtex, shock charges, which we're going to then replace for monkey bombs, and no specific gobbles again. And then similarly, we want parting gift and picky eater on vulture aid, and we want turret on energy mine. And we'll do the exact same thing as the slower strat here for setup, and we'll keep the exact same doors shut as well. But then once you've built and upgraded your ice staff, around, let's say, round 20, you can head into the stamina up room and you can just spam your charged ice shots in there on these 2 zombie barriers and continuously move between the 2 in order to get kills. It's really nice because you can start this so early in your game and just get into a rhythm with it and then lock in, and it's crazy fast, and it's even better with Rampage Inducer on, once again, until round 55. Now, it will probably take a few rounds to get the hang of it, and it can feel a bit overwhelming at first with lots going on, but as long as you're remembering to do things like spamming your energy mine turrets as much as possible, because those will kill mimics really quickly. And you can also be reassured by the fact that you've got a monkey bomb in your back pocket from the crafting bench, which will be there if you really need to escape in a sticky situation. You should be okay here. And just like the safe strat we talked about earlier, if a mimic grabs you, it is going to make you very vulnerable, so I'd highly recommend using your mutant injection in those scenarios. And if you've used one, you can always run back over to the crafting bench near the door that opens to quick revive and just craft another should you so desire. desire, or you can just try and get one for free from some of the elite enemies. Now, while you're doing all this, there is one thing I'd warn you about, and that's that there are quite a few mimic item spawns in this room. That's an item on the floor that will turn into a mimic. And one of them is right by stamina up, like it'll just spawn in there and wait for you. So always be careful of this, as it can really disrupt your movement if you get caught out by it. But as long as you're remembering that and you're dancing back and forth and spamming that ice stuff, you should be fine. And the really nice thing about this is that it works way past round 100. So if you're going for an even higher round, definitely use this strat, and you can get there in, like I said, under 2 hours. It's just that as you get into the higher and higher rounds, you will find yourself using even more mutant injections. So those are the strats, and if you want a real challenge, you could always try finishing off the Easter egg on round 100. And if you want to know how to do that, I've got a full main quest Easter egg guide linked on screen right now that explains it in graphic detail. So I'll see you there.